Today we'll explore why there's a common stereotype linking Jewish people with banking and finance. This video isn't about promoting any bias or prejudice. Instead, we'll take a thoughtful look back through history to understand how these associations began, why they have persisted for so long, and what the reality looks like beyond the stereotypes. By the end of this video, we hope you'll gain a more nuanced perspective on a topic that has been at the center of both fascination and misunderstanding for centuries. To understand the origins of these stereotypes, we need to go back to medieval Europe, where society was heavily shaped by religious laws and restrictions. During this time, Christian doctrine, backed by law, strictly prohibited Christians from lending money with interest, a practice known as usury. Usury was seen as morally wrong and was therefore forbidden to the Christian majority. This restriction created a void in society, as economies still needed ways to facilitate loans and transactions. Jewish communities, who were often restricted from many other professions due to discriminatory laws, found opportunities in finance and money lending. Jewish law had different interpretations of usury, especially when dealing with non-Jews, which allowed Jewish lenders to step into this necessary role. Thus, what started as a practical economic solution gradually developed into a specialized field for Jewish financiers and money lenders. It's essential to understand that this wasn't a role that Jewish communities universally sought out. Rather, it was one of the few available paths. Far from having privileged access to all sectors of society, Jewish people were often confined to specific roles due to restrictions on property ownership, guild membership, and other trades. This financial role was often stigmatized and sometimes even dangerous, as it was linked to accusations of greed and exploitation, an association that would persist and fuel stereotypes for centuries to come. Over the centuries, Jewish communities faced cycles of persecution, exile, and social isolation. These hardships led to a need for resilience, self-sufficiency, and adaptability. Since property and land were frequently taken away or barred to them, Jewish people learned to rely on skills and knowledge that could be transferred and adapted wherever they went. Financial skills, especially in trade and banking, became valuable tools for survival. The emphasis on education within Jewish culture also played a significant role. As societies modernized, an emphasis on literacy, numeracy, and intellectual curiosity allowed many Jewish individuals to excel in fields like finance, law, and medicine. Despite this progress, it's crucial to avoid generalizations. The successes of a few individuals in finance do not represent all Jewish people or imply an inherent connection between Jewish identity and financial skill. Rather, they illustrate how marginalized communities develop adaptive strategies. For Jewish people, financial knowledge became one such strategy in a historical context marked by adversity. During the 18th and 19th centuries, a few Jewish banking families rose to prominence in Europe, most notably the Rothschilds. Originally coin dealers from Frankfurt, the Rothschild family built an extensive banking network that eventually spanned multiple European countries. By strategically placing family members in different cities, the Rothschilds created a system of secure and rapid information sharing, which gave them a competitive edge in financing and trade. The Rothschilds became wealthy and influential, funding national projects like infrastructure, military operations, and industrial expansion. While they represented just one family and were far from typical of the broader Jewish experience, their financial success became emblematic. Over time, their name and wealth inspired fascination and, unfortunately, resentment. For people who were already inclined to anti-Semitic views, the Rothschilds' influence confirmed pre-existing stereotypes about Jewish wealth and control. It's important to remember that while the Rothschilds were highly visible, the vast majority of Jewish people at the time lived in poverty, especially in the ghettos of Europe. Most Jewish communities continued to face restrictions on where they could live, which trades they could pursue, and how they were allowed to interact with non-Jewish society. The Rothschilds and a few other families were exceptional cases rather than reflections of Jewish society as a whole. With the advent of the modern era, stereotypes about Jews and money became central to anti-Semitic propaganda, especially in times of political and economic turmoil. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, conspiracy theories about Jewish control over banks, media, and governments gained traction across Europe and even in America. Some of these theories were codified in infamous 4 forgeries like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a fabricated document claiming to reveal a Jewish plot for world domination. These theories served a clear purpose. They offered scapegoats during times of crisis. Instead of addressing the complex causes of social and economic hardship, leaders and demagogues found it easier to direct public anger toward Jewish communities. The consequences of these ideas were devastating, contributing directly to the persecution of Jewish people in Nazi Germany and other places. Despite historical inaccuracy, stereotypes linking Jewish people and finance remain part of popular culture, and they've even permeated media, literature, and film. Part of the reason for this persistence is that these stereotypes have been passed down for generations, entrenched in certain narratives that simplify complex social and economic issues. Moreover, finance itself is a misunderstood and often mistrusted industry. When economic crises hit, it's tempting to seek a simple explanation or to look for a specific group to blame. Unfortunately, stereotypes that link Jewish people with banking and finance become an easy, albeit misguided, target. The association remains powerful, despite the fact that today's finance industry is global and involves people from every conceivable background and culture. What's worth remembering is that the Jewish presence in finance is part of a much larger story of resilience, adaptability, and necessity. It was never about control or inherent traits, but rather about historical circumstance and survival strategies developed over centuries of discrimination and exclusion. Jewish representation in finance today isn't necessarily higher than in other fields. Just as people from diverse backgrounds pursue careers in law, medicine, or engineering, so do they pursue careers in finance. The reality of finance is that it's influenced by broader economic policies, market forces, and individual choices, rather than by any ethnic or religious identity. Moving past these stereotypes means recognizing the accomplishments of individuals as just that, individual. By appreciating the diversity within finance, we can appreciate the diversity of our world and avoid falling into old damaging patterns of thought. In conclusion, the stereotype linking Jewish people to finance is rooted in a historical context of exclusion and necessity, not in any inherent characteristic. Understanding this history helps us break down outdated beliefs and promotes a more informed perspective on the contributions of Jewish communities throughout history. By uncovering the real story, we can help combat harmful stereotypes and encourage a broader understanding of history and economics. Thanks for watching, and if you found this exploration enlightening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let's continue to learn and to challenge stereotypes, embracing truth and empathy along the way. See you in the next video.